Hi everyone, this is Justin, and in this video I'm going to be covering some very basic opening principles. So in the opening of a game, normally you want to start somewhere in the corner. That's because in the corner you only need to surround 2 sides to surround territory, whereas in the side you have to surround 3 sides, and in the center you have to surround 4 sides. So in the corner you can start in a lot of places. You can play 3-3, 5-3, 5-4, 4-4, 3-4, but 4-4 and 3-4 are the most common. So I'm going to mainly talk about those two for now. The 4-4 point, it's a very balanced move. You can see that it's symmetrical to both sides of the board. And if white approaches from one side, it's very easy to just develop on the other side. This is very, very balanced. It's also very influence oriented. You can see that it's on the 4th line, so it's a little bit closer to the center of the board, but it does have this weakness at the 3-3 point. And if white does this, then it's very difficult to kill the invasion, and white will almost always get the corner. But you can see from this that because even though white gets the corner, black does get a lot of influence on the outside, which is very helpful for developing toward the center. In the opening, unless white gets a lot of points in the corner, like let's say more than 20 or 25, then usually it's a little bit better for black. And that is why usually white won't invade the corner immediately. So the 3-4 point is much more territory oriented. You can see that physically it's closer to the corner of the board. The other thing is that you only need 2 moves to surround a corner, whereas with the 4-4 point you need 3 moves to surround a corner. If you only spend 1 move to surround a corner, white can still invade a 3-3 point, and it's very difficult to kill this. Like, it's still going to be at least a kill. That's why normally black needs 3 moves to surround a corner with the 4-4 stone. But you can see that with the 3-4 point, if white tries a 3-3 invasion again, it's much easier to kill the corner. If white puts something like this, white will not live. Now, even though it's easier for black to surround the corner, you can see that both stones are a little bit further away from the center of the board. Compared to the 4-4 stone, which is on the 4th line, these 2 stones are both on the 3rd line of the board, so they don't exert as much influence towards the center. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about opening some more principles through 2 games I'm going to show you today. So this first game is from when I was 13K. I was playing black, and we can just take a look at what happens. If you want to see other games from when I was, playing back in the day, you can check out the KDS archives online. So in this game, both started on either 4-4 or 3-4 points. And then I played this kind of funny looking move. So usually the 5th line moves are very, very center oriented. And the problem with that is that it doesn't really give any protection to making territory. So normally, if you want to enclose the corner, you want to either play on the 4th line, something like this, or you can play something like this. This move basically exerts a little bit more influence toward the center, but you can see that if white plays a move here, then there's a weakness here. Or white has a follow-up move to reduce the corner. Whereas if black plays here, and if white plays here, black doesn't necessarily have to defend again. Now, of course, white can play this kind of shoulder hit if he wants to make some influence toward the center of the board. Now, the 5th line move, the problem with this is that if white, let's say you play a move like here or something, now you can see that this move, it doesn't really help black get much of the corner at all. If black wants to surround the corner, he has to spend another move, and you can see that now black has spent 3 moves instead of 2, and that this 5th line move is a little bit slow. If black tries to develop more towards the center, I don't know, let's say he plays something like this, you can see that it's much easier for white to reduce the corner and make territory. And of course, because it's easier for white to make territory on the side than the center, it's a little bit better for white. That said, of course, there are some openings where they are very framework oriented and more center oriented, but I'm not going to really talk about them today. Maybe in a future video I'll touch on them. But in general, 5th line moves are not very good. So white played somewhere in this area. You can see I ended up spending an extra move to protect my corner. Um, the game proceeded like this. Now let's talk a little bit about approaches. So normally, you want to approach from the side that has the most amount of space. You can see that on this side, it's a little bit narrow. Let's say if white adds another move, it's very difficult for black to develop on the left side. Whereas if I play a move on the right side, if white plays a move on the other side, there's a lot more space for black to develop. So basically, the basic flow of the opening is you start in the corner, and then you either extend on the side, make a corner enclosure, or approach one of your opponent's corners. That's basically the three main steps of the opening after you play in the corners. After you do those things, you can make any further side extensions or start developing towards the center by jumping out. So in this case, it would have definitely been better to approach from this side. You can approach from this side too. You can see there's still a lot of space here, but it's a little bit more difficult to create a framework because there's already a white stone in the bottom left corner. Whereas in this case, if I approach on this side, then this black stone will be more beneficial towards creating a framework. Of course, playing on this side is not bad either. It just means that the game will be more territory oriented and the frameworks won't be as big. It'll be much more split up. So in the game I played here, white played here, which is not very good, but it's okay. I'm not going to really touch on it. So the game proceeded like this. Now you can see that black spent 3 moves, and they're all, towards the center, but what did black really gain? Not really much. Whereas white played these moves and surrounded the corner, and actually surrounded already, at least 20 points. Whereas black, with these 3 moves, surrounded 0 points. And of course, because Go is a game of territory, if you make more points, you win the game. So, you can say that white is very much further ahead because black didn't really get any benefit from these 3 moves. Of course, if you make a lot of influence and it helps you to surround the center, that's a completely different story. But in this case, these 3 moves are very inefficient, slow, and heavy, and just bad. So the game proceeded like this. Here, black, I played another really kind of strange move. So basically, after I play this move, and after white played here, you can see it's already very difficult for white to make a lot at the bottom. And this move is basically like an extra move that serves kind of the same purpose. It's just, again, inefficient, not making points. You can see white is already developing another corner at the same time. Whereas these 5 moves, what has black surrounded? Nothing. Has black gotten a little bit of influence? Yes, a little bit. But that influence it's very difficult to turn that into points at this point of the game. So the game proceeded like this. And again, you can see that black is continually making influence, whereas white is surrounding a lot of points. But of course, it's very difficult to surround points in the center. So this is definitely a lot better for white. Now, if white allows me to surround the center, so we can keep going a little bit further. So let's say that white lets me surround everything in the center. Now, of course, if I get the entire center, of course, black will be winning. This is a lot of territory, especially if white cannot invade. But of course, white will not be so kind, and it's very easy for white to just simply... okay, so the game went like this. So, even if I play something like this, it's very easy for white to either just invade the top, I can come reduce from the bottom, and you can see that if black continuously defends, black actually is not making that much territory. You can see that white already surrounded a lot of points on the side. Even this corner is really big, but at least 20 points, right? Black is not going to make as many points to compensate for the amount of territory that white has already gotten. Also, right now, you can say that the pressure is all on black to surround the center, and it's much more relaxed and easier for white to reduce the center than it is for black to surround the entire center. especially considering how wide the top still is. It's very easy for white to invade that area. So that's pretty much all I wanted to get from this game. Basically, uh, this is to illustrate how you should be efficient in the opening. Um, don't play too many moves that aren't very beneficial. You want to always remember to make points in the opening, and that way you can win the game, right? Because if you have more points than your opponent, then you win. So now we can look at another game. This is from when I was 10K. I had tried to find some games from back when I was like 15K or below, but the problem was that a lot of those games were like kind of crazy and random, so it's kind of hard to analyze much of anything. So I just went with slightly higher level games. So in this game, uh, we both start in the corners again. This is all very normal. This is okay. Uh, this is the proper sequence, but just playing here, it's not necessarily bad per se. The game proceeded like this. You can see that this game has a much more natural flow. Almost all of the moves are on the third or fourth line, kind of illustrating that point of balance. And compared to the last game, you can see that this is definitely a much higher level. That said, if we look at this result, uh, let's just take a short look at the top left. So we can see that originally this is black's corner, right? Originally it's like this, and now all of a sudden white has taken the corner, and what does black have to show for it? So these 4 stones, let's take a look at this. What are they surrounding? Not really that much. If black wants to secure this group, he needs to add another move here, right? But you can see that even though this is originally black's corner, now it's white's corner, so you can say that white already profited just from that. Also, white now has Sente, so he can go play somewhere else, like approach this corner. So you can say that white is already more efficient than black. But if black doesn't defend this group, let's say white adds another move, now all of a sudden, this group might even come under attack. If black adds another move like this, you can see now that the efficiency of these stones is very low. White is making quite a few points in the corner, is developing this framework on the left side, but black has not really gained that much, maybe only a few points. If black doesn't defend, then, this group might even come under further attack and might not even be alive. So you can see that black already made a pretty big mistake in the opening. So what black should have done is play here, and then play something like this. You can also play b18 depending on the situation, but this is fine. And something like this would have been much better. And now you can see that the corner is much more divided. Something like this. It's not necessarily white's corner, it's kind of split between both sides. And also black has kind of settled his group, and white settled his own group as well. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about Joseki. So if you're like not a mid-dawn player, you don't really need to study much Joseki, because it's not really as useful to study as it is to study, say, like Life and Death, Tetsuji, opening, endgame, those kind of things, because Joseki is always changing, and it's very difficult to really grasp the meaning of each move. So in the beginning, like, you don't really need to focus on that. Just consult references if you see like a Joseki that you don't really know. But you don't really need to go out of your way to study it in particular. Okay, so let's continue a little bit further. Let's see. Here's another application of the 3-3 invasion. In this case, it's not really necessarily that good for white, because after this result, black actually gains a lot of influence towards the center, and it's very much easier for black to kind of surround territory here later on. Black should have played here, because by playing here, it leaves a little bit of Aji around here. Something like this, for example. It's much easier for white to reduce this framework here, but that's a little bit more of a minor point. But that is why the proper move is to play here. So basically, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Basically, you in the opening, you want to start in the corner. And then after you play the corners, you can either enclose a corner, you can extend on the side, or you can approach your opponent's corners. And then after you do that for all of the corners, you can develop towards the side some more if it hasn't been done so, and then develop towards the center. Other than that, make sure you have a balance of third line and fourth line moves. That way you can have kind of a balance between influence and territory. And then remember to always be as efficient as you can with your moves in the opening. Efficiency is really the key to getting ahead in the opening. If you're making more points than your opponent, you're going to win the game. I mean that's just how it works. Other than that, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I hope this video can help your opening, and especially if you're relatively new to the game, give you an idea of how the opening is played. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!